This is the former and five-time World Madden champ, Jordan 13-8, and you're listening to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix.
Thank you, Jordan. It is, in fact, the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix. It is Tuesday, October 19th, 2021. It is podcast number 84, the 14th episode of Season 4, and it's going to be a good one, I think. It's a bit of a gloomy fall day, but I'm feeling good about today's show, Josh, and I hope you are too. But before we get too crazy into it, let's rock into it. Walters, go ahead and rock us out.
Welcome to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix with your lovely hostesses, Garlic Johnson.
We're going to need to take a break here while I change my pants.
And Josh Mitchell.
Sitting here undefeated in everything I do, except fantasy football. No, I'm not allowed to handle crayons.
Not after last time.
Not after last time.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Garlic and Josh.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast. I'm one of your lovely hostesses, the Garlic Johnson. We are joined by probably the bestest hostess we have, the Joshua Mitchell. Josh, say hi to the folks out there.
Hi, folks.
We would think it'd be really cool, hot dang G-Dog of you if you were to join our Discord server. We could chit-chat all the live long day. You can leave us voicemails at anchor.fm/hoodpod. You can also kick it old school and leave us an email at hiddenoaksoverdose@gmail.com. You can also check out Josh's baby of a website, hiddenoaksoverdose.com. You can see some cool stats about our league of record and how Garlic is the greatest fantasy football player there's ever been. For those of you not listening live, the segment start times are down in the description below, per usual, just in case you want to skip around. I know time is precious and time is limited, so use those segment start times to your advantage and listen to what you want to hear. Lastly, got to give a big shout out to our dog, our boy, our friend, the Caramel Bear, a.k.a. at Levi Oki Illustration on Instagram. He's responsible for all the beautiful art you see, both in the show, outside of the show, pretty much everywhere in the whole world. I think Levi is responsible for anything. He did the Mona Lisa, he did Starry Night, he does that Banksy stuff. Caramel Bear pretty much does it all. So if you've ever seen art you appreciate, make sure you go thank at Levi Oki Illustration on Instagram. Josh, how we doing today, pal?
Oh, Durin.
I see in the chit chat you wrote Josh's life clock is running out.
Yeah, well, I spent 40% of my week last week and the week before in the dentist. This week it's going to be the doctor's office. They're looking for what ailments I might be having, and I think right now they're starting at A in the dictionary of medicine.
Yep.
And they're just circling everything they find. So it's been a good run. Solid run. It's been a run. We'll just put it at that.
It has, in fact, been a run.
Yep. So we'll carefully write my will so Walters has no say in what happens to the pod, and we'll go from there.
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, we would not leave the pod in Walter's hands in our ultimate demise. But I mean, realistically though, I'm sure, it's no secret to anybody out there at this point, you're soon to be a dad. I think you pegged the day as tomorrow, just, guessing because your kid's going to be fucking 90 pounds when it finally comes out. But are you just stressing out about being a dad, or do you think you just legitimately got sick at a very inconveniently timed moment?
Bit of both. So part of the reason I actually went to the dentist for the first time in 9 years was because I was tasting metal, and that just apparently isn't something I'm supposed to be tasting all the time.
That's good. That's a good thing to get checked out.
And so I figured, I'd have a cavity or two. And when they found that and they filled them, I was like, oh, that should get better. And then sure enough, a week later, it's just like, haven't been licking tailpipes again, so can't be that. And so I called in and they said, you might want to schedule something with your doctor. So I did that. Well, they think it might be allergies, might be acid reflux from the stress. Haven't had any heartburn or anything, so I don't know. They said there's silent reflux. I might want to confirm with Dr. Hammer, but I believe that is the number one cause of death amongst individuals that are considered human. So, life clock's running out. Had a bit of a scare, but hey, it's all right. There's more to the story, but that might be in the after hours pod.
Sure, that we'll save that for another time. But okay, I mean, if you're feeling a bit under the weather, and we went from last week with, not to shame our fans, we have really, really, really good fans, the best fans, but we went from 8 live listeners to 1 this week, so we're not really putting on a show for the people here. They can just listen and skip around and pause at their leisure later. So we can have a bit of a briefer pod, and we can just keep moving here. We're not playing to a crowd, so to speak. So, hope
And it's not that I'm under the weather, Gar.
Oh.
I'm feeling the same as I was last week. I just had to go to the doctor today, and they just drain your soul.
Sure. I will note that similar to last week, you are on the quiet side, so I don't know if the mic can be moved closer to your mouth or if you can just talk into it or something, but I will just note that now before Walters comes at you.
I'm essentially eating it, so I don't know.
Well, then maybe start yelling. No, we're good. All right, we'll keep her moving here, Josh. Let's go move on to the FanTASTY Zone. We love the FanTASTY Zone. We love the fact that the Skybusters brings us the FanTASTY Zone for pretty much the whole year. Sent us a big, fat check about it. So yeah, we appreciate the Skybusters for sponsoring the FanTASTY Zone. Josh, are you eating or drinking anything over there right now for the tasty part of the FanTASTY Zone?
Some lukewarm room temperature water is kind of all I'm having right now.
Wow, you know how to live. Is it at least from the bathroom sink, as is tradition?
Yeah, my neighbors. We didn't pay our water bills, so I had to sneak over there during the day.
Sure. I mean, I respect that. I don't have an Arnie Palmer this week. Bit of a shocker. I still have a big pounder of a tea can though. We got the Oh, you should have seen there was like a little mist that came out. That was pretty sweet. But I've got the peace tea. If you ever, I'm sure you've seen the brightly colored cans, but it's a person holding a fruit with the peace sign, and it's a peach peace tea. So staying on brand, enjoying the peach and enjoying the teas. And I've got a little cup of cashews here as well. Just need a little. I never eat before the pod because I don't want to be a poopy boy. So I'm just trying to get a snack that's got a little more protein that'll last me. But yeah, so that's what we're snacking and drinking on, Josh. Since I think this show will be a slightly shorter one today, I just want to remind the folks that there's plenty of ways you can sponsor the show. The main one, the easiest one for fans, I would say, would be to go to anchor.fm/hoodpod/subscribe for $5 a month. You can just set it and forget it, and you can just help line our pockets. Or when I say our pockets, I mean my pockets. You can just help line my pockets with lots of cash, and you don't have to do a whole lot of work with it. You can also, though, there's a bunch of opportunities for, if you Venmo a certain amounts, you can get a personal thank you to the end of the show. You can get, anything you want shouted out for a $2 holla. You can do $3.50, which is basically get a special question. You get a snack shouted out. For $5, you can sponsor a segment like Brian has done for us all year. You can also do $20. You can sponsor a whole show like Carmel Bear has done. And Walters has paid me to do, but he's been waiting to get an ad readout because the one thing I do is I make the person who sponsors the show supply their own 30-second ad read, and Walters has yet to do so. So Walters has paid to sponsor the show, and I'm hoping he just forgets about it. Me talking about it's probably not a good strat, but...
Idiot probably doesn't even know how to read.
But yeah, so for $20, you can sponsor a whole show, and you can help Josh and I keep working at this. And Josh he's going to lose his life and all his money. From what I hear, kids are not free. So I'm sure Josh would appreciate the funds flowing through as well. But yeah, those are just the ways... Oh, go ahead.
It's like Pappy always said, everything's free if you're fast enough. So
here you go, the old 5-finger discount. It's only illegal if you get caught. But yeah, no, I mean, we're not afraid to ask for money anymore. Obviously, we're going to keep doing this whether we get a penny or not, but we do appreciate any sort of sponsorship. If we bring you joy, we're not afraid to say, hey, sponsor us financially for bringing you such joy. But yeah, so we'll move on from the sponsor of the show, plugging ourselves a bit. We had a couple brief gridiron discussion topics this week, Josh. Didn't really go too in-depth with either of them. I think we're kind of hitting that mid-football season lull where we're over the excitement of football, and we know there's a lot of football left. So I think all the seasoned football fans are like, okay, we need to fucking pace ourselves here. I can't blow my load every single week, or by the time the playoffs or the good games actually hit, I'm going to be absolutely sick of it. So I think everyone's in kind of that mid-season lull of just not wanting to do too much. But Ertz, one of the big things that happened last week was Ertz was traded to Arizona. Obviously, Ertz was a big real football and big fantasy asset a couple years ago. But he's kind of fallen to the wayside with the rise of Dallas Goedert and the general fall of the Eagles organization. Do you have any thoughts about Ertz to Arizona, whether it improves Arizona or how it bodes for Philadelphia?
I think it'll help Arizona just because right now I think they lost 2 of their tight ends, so they're going to need that extra help. He's a decent pass catcher still. I think that the Eagles are probably going to suffer more than Arizona is. I mean, I don't know. The Eagles are going to suffer from losing him because I thought he was still a valuable asset to that team, even if he wasn't necessarily a go-to guy. But then again, at this point in time, the Eagles have 3 of the top 10 picks in next year's draft. So who knows if they care about who's on their team this year?
Sure. No, I think that's fair. They definitely have plenty of room to grow. I think it's a fair way to put it. The other one is that week 7, there's a lot of RBs that are either on bye just because that's how the schedule works out, or we've seen a lot of running backs go down so far this season. And there might be some people out there who legitimately don't have enough running backs to start. And so now they're trying to decide. I mean, bye weeks happen. Like, you have to pick up and drop people as the season goes on generally. But, like, it could be a really, really rough week for some people. And so I asked the question, if it came to it, would you just essentially leave yourself with an open lineup spot and just essentially take the L this week unless you get lucky? Or would you sit there and drop your bench depth just so you could, get one more person in your lineup and try and win this week that probably isn't going to be on your team for more than just this week? I guess, do you have any strong feelings about it taking an L just because you have to, or would you always start a full lineup no matter what and maybe lose some depth to some other people who aren't hurting as bad?
Well, I'm going to have to start a full lineup or what, or I'm going to lose my draft position in the Dynasty League. But as someone who lost Kareem Hunt to injury and then I had bye weeks coming up, I'm definitely going to have to try and find out who to put in the Hidden Oaks League. I don't think I'm comfortable rolling Ronald Jones out. So unless, Lombardi Lenny takes a Lombardi leap off the edge of a building or something.
Gotcha. So, so it sounds like you want to start a full lineup, though? I mean, obviously in the Dynasty League, it's like a rule to have to, but you're not going to, so you'd rather drop some, maybe, I don't know, just some other starters to get a full lineup this week. You won't just take an L. Right.
And I guess I'm in a position to do so because I had 2 defenses, 2 tight ends, and 4 quarterbacks, I think.
That's a lot.
No, I'm just kidding. I had 2 quarterbacks, 2 quarterbacks, 2 defenses, and then and I think that's it with our shallow bench. But I only said the 4 quarterbacks because I wanted Walters to have a stroke.
I was just gonna say, for those of you in the North Metro area, if you just heard a gunshot ring out, that was probably Walters ending it all after hearing Josh's roster makeup. But okay, because that's what. The reason I asked it though is because in the Champions League, so. I'm not even like trying to brag, but just as a matter of fact, I am on the top of the league still. Like, I'm in first place. I have the most wins. And I have, that's a super flex league, so quarterbacks are very important. And I have 3 quarterbacks in that league. I have Dak Prescott, I have Kirk Cousins, and I have Ben Roethlisberger. And all of 3 of them have a week 7 bye. And there's only 6 bench spots in that league, and I have a bunch of people I don't want to drop, so I'm just taking an L in that league. Which I think is fine because I'll be back with all my best weapons next week. So, I don't know. That's the whole reason I brought it up, to see if there's anyone else out there who's okay with taking an L. I'm sure where you are in the standings factors in as well, like Jack said in the Discord. But, I was just curious how you felt about it. And I kind of knew your answer already, but...
Yeah, and that factors in because I'm, 500 and we have 14-team leagues. So I kind of want to try and get a win out of it.
Sure.
Now, in the Victoria's Secret League, where I have a bajillion points against me, I'll probably try out a full lineup against someone playing 3 bye players and still find a way to lose by 50.
Sure. Yeah, just I'm rambling a bit here, but just as a fun fact, because I wanted to share it at some point today, but this is probably the perfect time to do it when you mentioned points against. So obviously, I'm taking in the Hidden Oaks Dynasty League, and I noticed that you have a lot of points against. You're having a rough season so far in the Hidden Oaks Dynasty League. You're 2-4, I think, as the reigning champ. I looked at my points against. I somehow have more points against than you. So even if I were trying this year, I might still be 0-6 at this point. I was like, how the hell do I have more points against than Josh does? Because I thought your number was astounding, and then I had like 30 more points against than you. So I was like, holy shit, good thing I tanked, because I would have had a bad time. But we can move on here, Josh. Let's talk about your massive polls.
So I didn't actually create one for this week. I might do one midweek, but I can read off from the one that I put up last week, where I said, in light of all the Gruden news, and I don't think anything's changed. Keep it the same and slowly overtake Gruden's grinder, still in the lead. But I think we've already discussed what you're going to do with it. And so we should mention that this segment has been brought to you by Skybusters. Bust through that sky. Pew, pew. And now we're moving on to Gar's Quick Hitter.
Yeah, dude. I mean, well, I'm definitely not afraid to, just to mention it or talk about it for a sec, I'm definitely not afraid to go back to Gar's Grinder, but I definitely believe in, just letting it rest for a bit. We'll leave it as Gar's Golden Shower for maybe 4 weeks, and then, since the fans were like, yeah, Gar's Grinder's fine, I can go back to it, but I definitely believe in a little rest period here while the Gruden stuff kind of blows over. But yeah, go ahead.
If there's one thing that you learned in today's society, it doesn't matter what the majority thinks. So long as one person's offended, you're wrong.
Well, that's true in a sense that they're offended, but but yeah. So anyways, last week we talked about I love gilding people, I love showering them in gold. So this is going to be Gar's Golden Shower for at least a couple more weeks, and I really just want to. And this isn't going to be just a weekly performance. This is going to be it could be a weekly performance because they dominated last night. But Derrick Henry is an absolute ungodly human, or a godly human superhero of a man. He already has 162 attempts through 6 games. 783 yards. He's almost averaging 5 yards a carry. He's got 10 rushing touchdowns already. This dude is on pace for what I thought I saw, like, I could do the math right now if I wanted to, but that's like 500 touches. That's insane. And that's just rushing. He's also got, so many receptions and so many receiving yards already too. It's like, holy shit. Do you have Derrick Henry in any of your leagues, Josh? Are you benefiting from this godliness that Derrick Henry's put through 6 weeks?
No, but I definitely have played against him in 2 leagues yesterday.
Oh, no.
No big deal. I was up by 25-1 and just so happened to lose by 25 in that one. Give you a hint as to which league it is. It's not one that I've complained about, but Victoria's Secret League.
And then since we're having a little more of a back and forth this pod, Josh, do you think what Derrick Henry's doing is sustainable? Or do you think even no one can, 500 touches is unheard of?
I don't know. It's hard to say it's not sustainable because everybody says every, off season before the draft, yeah, he can't maintain that sort of output. And then, now look what he's doing this year. So it'll be interesting to see. But I personally think that he's still going to finish at that RB1 unless he gets hurt, of course.
Right. No, I think that's fair to say. Dude's been so dominant so far. I'm sure a couple teams will try and slow him down, and so he'll probably have a couple down games. He won't be putting up 30 bombers every single week. But, yeah, if he is certainly destined for that running back 1 spot, unless, someone like Dalvin or Saquon or someone really just bursts out of the woodwork and, puts up a lot of good performances here to take him out. But we can move on, Josh. We'll move on to the Hidden Oaks Original Podcast Play Along. And that segment start time is a full 17 minutes and 35 seconds, we'll call it, because we always round to the nearest 5-second spot. And I know Al used to always mention, or always loved it when we mentioned it. And Josh, last week, the podcast play along was rocked by Hammer. Somehow, is this dude 0-6? I think this dude is 0-6 in our Hidden Oaks Redraft League, the League of Record. But he put up a 156 bomber on the old FanDuel. He came in first place of Contest 6. Brian, who I think tries once every 3 weeks or so, he put up a 131.34 performance. And then Jack Vickers, he tied Brian with 131.34, and they did have differing lineups. I did go check. They had 3 similar players. I think they had like Jonathan Taylor and Jamar Chase, and the Colts defense, I think, were their 3 similarities, but that means they had 5 or 6 other different players. So, for them to have an exact tie in a 2-point decimal system, that's pretty rare. That's kind of a cool little nugget. Ultimately, it doesn't matter too much in this contest because it's your 5 best scores at the end of the year. But, they're going to have to outperform each other if either of them ends up in the top 3 at the end. How'd you do?
I think I was number 7-ish. I don't know. I'm 5 overall, which is fine by me. But, I'm coming. I'm coming up.
Well, speaking of, you said you're number 4, number 5 overall. How are the standings looking then after these first 6 weeks?
Well, we've got Big Cushy Man up on top with 706.86. Then we got the Lucky Hamber in second at 675.58. And then Derek backwards, or carried, with 670 on the dot. And then I don't know who's 4, and I think I'm 5. Last week's top 3, we had, I'm guessing that's Big Cushy Man, yep. David, at 706.86. Brad, no longer on the top 3, with 658.62. And then Derek with 650.7.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. The reason I started listing out the top 3 scores from last week is because we're going to, even if you remain in the top 3, your scores could be changing here. So obviously David did not change. His 706.86 remained the same. I think David had the worst. I think he did the worst in week 6. I'm pretty sure he didn't even put up 100 points. I think he came in last place for contest 6, but he still has 5 solid scores, so he's a top. And then, like you said, Hammer burst into second place with that 156 he put up. Must have had some other solid base scores to jump up into the top 3 there. And then Derek actually improved on his own top 5 scores. He had 650 last week, and now he's up to 670 this week. So I mean, Derek's he's moving up. I'm telling people is when Derek gets those, I think Derek's the guy to beat because he has like an almost 200 point performance. So as long as he can get a couple more solid base scores in here, like some 130s, 140s, whatever, Derek's going to be the guy to beat in the end. I'm calling it now. But so we'll see. We'll see how things turn out. Maybe Josh can sneak up into that top 3 as well. It's possible. Every week, Josh, we like to pick a stud and we like to pick a dud, or a dud, I should say, going into the contest. The contest for week 7 is already open, but last week we picked some guys as well. I picked Josh Gordon as a dud, recently signed wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. He would have cost you 5,500 to be in your lineup. Did you have him in your lineup, by the way?
No.
Okay. Well, he put up exactly 0 points, which is for a 0 times value, and he was a dud. Obviously, he didn't record any catches, which I don't think was too surprising because he just signed a week before. But who'd you have last week, Josh? You had a dud. It looks like. How'd they do?
I put in Alexander Madison, running back for the Minnesota Vikings. He was going to be a $7,700 piece of the puzzle, and he'd have gotten you 1 total point for 0.1 times the value, which equals dud.
That's not a very good performance out of Madison. I mean, Dalvin Cook did start, so that makes sense. So I'd say that was a low-hanging fruit of a dud, but you were factually correct, and I could not take that away from you. What about this week, Josh? Who do you like going into week 7? You got a stud, you got a dud, and why?
I have a stud, and his name is Darnell Mooney. He's the wide receiver for Chicago. He's 5,900. He had a touchdown against the Packers, going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' decimated secondary.
How decimated is that secondary?
They signed Richard Sherman off of the Wendy's waiver wire, and he is now hurt. So they're down to, I don't know, they're probably down to Bruce Arians and Tom Brady's oldest son.
Oh, no. Oh, and for whatever reason, I thought you said they were playing the Packers, but obviously you said they were playing the Buccaneers. That makes way more sense now. For some reason, I thought you said they were playing the Packers, but I think I'm just losing it, Josh. But Darnell Mooney, huh? Do you have any pulse of how he's been doing so far this year?
I have him on a couple of my teams. He's done okay. Obviously, I haven't done okay, but he's put up points every once in a while. So I think that obviously with that quarterback carousel, it's a little bit tougher. I'm trying to pull up his stats here for the season, and in PPR, he's number 43 overall. So not the best, not the worst. But he's got a couple games over 15, a couple games under 5. So, yeah.
Just not too bad overall. I mean, for a 55 hunch player or 59 hunch player, excuse me. But yeah, so I've got Sterling Shepard this week. He's a wide receiver for the New York Giants. I'm predicting him to be a stud. He's going to cost you a little bit more than Mooney, about 600 more. He's going to be a 65 hunch of a purchase. He's been out, so he hasn't had a great. He hasn't been durable, as Josh would put, so far this year. But he's got 9 in the 3 full games he's played. He's got 9 targets, 10 targets, and just last week he got 14 targets. So Daniel Jones is looking Sterling Shepard's way early and often. And Kadarius Toney looks like he might miss some time, and Kenny Golladay is an absolute shell of himself. He's Garbo. And I don't even know who else is still on that team anymore. I'll look it up right here. Darius Slayton, John Ross, Evan Ingram, Kyle Rudolph. I mean, these guys are all jokes. So, I mean, Sterling Shepard appears to be the go-to guy for Danny Dimes, Danny Dashes. So Sterling Shepard's going to see a lot of volume. No guarantee that he puts up, 20, 30 points. But, I mean, when you're getting 10 double-digit targets, you definitely have the opportunity to have a great breakout game. So I think he's definitely worth the stud pick and designation there. Anything else you want to say about the podcast play along, Josh, before we keep her moving?
Oh, no, not that I can think of.
All right, man. Well, let's hit your quick hitter. What do you got for us this week, Josh?
So I went on and said that Josh's Joker of this week is going to be all of the Bears fans. Because not only did they lose to the Packers, but they are owned by the quarterback that plays for the Packers, apparently. And they had some pretty good reactions. I was trying to find one of them, but I don't know if it's been deleted or not off Reddit, but it was somebody's post about how when he heard that, it just kind of echoed in his mind. And he's like, I could spend years away from this team, something along those lines. And as his eyes close on his deathbed, the last thing he's ever going to see is Aaron Rodgers facing, I still own you.
Oh, jeez.
And I lost it at that. And so I think Bears fans are jokers. Mostly. And then there was also that photo of him as he's like doing the belt in the end zone. And I think I counted 7 different middle fingers. So it was kind of funny. But yeah, so they're Josh's Joker of the week.
Gotcha. All right. And since we've got some extra time this week, do you want to any comments on what Aaron Rodgers said at all? I mean, you're our resident Packers fan. I feel strongly that if that were like a Stephon Diggs or someone else you maybe care less about, you would have been like, I could just shut up and play. But obviously it's your guy, so now you might feel a bit differently. Any thoughts on the trash talk directly to the fans there?
I guess I thought it was funny, and I guess it makes sense just with his record against them. Like if Diggs did it against the Vikings and he's 1-0 against them, that wouldn't make much sense. But like Brady, if Brady were to go and do it to somebody that he just absolutely decimates, like the Jets or the Bills or the Giants, or not the Giants, Dolphins, that would be funny too. But I think the thing is that he said he blacked out, and I was like, okay, buddy. But I haven't listened to his reaction to it on the McAfee show yet, so we'll see.
I mean, he went on this fucking long ass ramble, dude. It was. I have plenty of my own thoughts about Rodgers, and I'm sure I'm biased, even though I try not to be. But I mean, his answer was essentially like just the most long. I think his answer to Pat asking about it was about 10 minutes long, and he said essentially almost nothing of substance the whole time. So just the classic. Let me say a lot without actually saying anything. But
that is his interview style. You know that, right?
I understand that, Josh.
I think he said it like a couple weeks ago. Like that's what he does is he's perfected the art of saying a lot without saying anything.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, it's just something that I don't know. It's like just don't answer the question then instead of wasting 10 minutes of my time. But yeah, no. So that's it was an interesting thing. I mean, I think trash talk's fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy players that kind of wear their emotions a bit. I think it makes the game a bit more exciting. But obviously, Aaron Rodgers is going to be more of a polarizing figure, so opinions will probably be a bit stronger on the matter as well. But we can
Have you started the march on Milwaukee to get them banned from the NFL?
Oh, we're organizing. Don't you worry. We'll go ahead and move on to the Hidden Oaks highlights, though. Here, Josh, we got to keep this podcast moving for our lovely fans out there. It's who won the side bet? Or I guess what was the side bet last week, and who won it, Josh? Who done it?
The side bet of last week was Close Shave, team that beats its opponents by the smallest margin of victory. And our winner was Mr. Landvik by a solid 0.5 points over Derek.
Yeah, dude. So one by 0.6, actually, technically, if you want to get technical, 105.65 to 105.05, so that'd be a 0.6 difference. But I'm trying to look here. Did it come down to Monday night? Do I see any Bills or Tennessee players here, or was this decided by Sunday night?
I think it was Sunday night.
Yeah, okay, yep. I'm not seeing any Monday night players. So this was already decided. So there was no Monday night misery, essentially, for one of them to barely make it or for one of them to just pass the other. But still, though, when you're losing by that small of a margin, it just crushes your soul. And I'll look at Derek's bench here. Did he have anyone on his bench outperform his starters? Well, I mean, he had the Broncos defense do -2, so that's an ouch right there. Just not playing a defense would have been sufficient, but yeah, that's gonna sting for Derek for a week for sure. The blowout last week though was Garrett. Garrett beats off Jamie 59 by 59.9. What's the final here? I can go back and look at it. Oh boy, it was. So it was 194.35 to 134.45. So, yeah, that's definitely worthy of the beat-off designation you gave to the notes, Josh. He almost scored 200 points. Do you happen to know off the top of your head what the highest single-game score we've ever had is? Is it
Not off the top of my head.
past
I could
200?
probably. I don't think so.
So Garrett got real close if he didn't just claim the title right there.
Yes.
Dang, Garrett. Well, good for you.
I would think he did. Yeah, so I would have to look it up. I know I have it somewhere.
No, I mean, you don't need to know. I was just curious if you knew. Anyone who wants to find out, they could go to hiddenokesoverdose.com and while you're listening later, and you could find out. But yeah, and then the nail biter, obviously, since the side bet was close shave, the team that beats its opponents by the smallest margin of victory, that would go to Eric's for beating Derek by 0.6.
Okay, so I have the highest scoring week. It was 197.18 last year, week 7.
Oh, so Garrett does not claim the title, but he's close. He's got to be top 5, if not top 3, maybe even second. Who knows? But does not claim the highest score.
The record holder for that is yours truly.
Yeah, shocking, isn't it?
I should create a podcast.
There you go. All right, Josh, we did our side bet, we did our blowout and our nail biter. You got some highs and lows. This is something you started doing this year. It's kind of your baby, so I just let you run with it. Who were the lows this week? Who owned the players, and why are they terrible fantasy players?
Well, the lows this week weren't as low as some of the weeks in the past, but we had Taylor Heineke, quarterback for the Washington team, with 11 points. And then we had Alexander Madison with 1. Jeremy McNichols, for some reason, was in a starting lineup with 0. Chase Claypool with 3.7. Tyler Boyd with 1.7 for wide receivers. The lowest tight end was David Njoku with 1.6, falling back to his average after a monster week last week. In the flex, we had a tie at 4.7 somehow with Evans and Mike Williams. Mike and Mike, as they would say.
Mike and Mike in the morning.
Defense, the Patriots with a -4. And then for a kicker, we had one kicker with 2 points, Mr. McLaughlin. Over in the highs, we had a decent week. Josh Allen, aka me, with 32.25. Derrick Henry, running back, and Leonard Fournette, running back, with 35.6 and 30.7 respectively. Cooper Kupp with 34, and CeeDee Lamb with 36.1 for wide receivers. Noah Fant was the leading tight end with 24.7. Joe Mixon was the leading flex with 26.3. The Rams defense was with 17, and then the top kicker was Matt Prater with 15. If you had the low team roster, I realized I didn't read out the title, you'd have a 21.8. And if you had the highs roster, you would have had a 251.65.
And dude, I always try and break down like how possible these high teams would be, because obviously you're going to have a lot of first 3-round players, and you literally couldn't assemble the team. This one's close. Like, I mean, I think the receiver depth is a bit too much. Like Kupp, it would be hard to have Josh Allen, Derrick Henry, Cooper Kupp, and CeeDee Lamb, I think is what I'm trying to say, and Joe Mixon.
And Mixon,
right?
Yeah.
So that'd be a pretty hard lineup to have, but.
In a 10-man league, yes. 12-man league, you'd have to get lucky, because you'd have to probably get Henry in the first and then Mixon in the second. And then when they come back, get Kupp and Lamb. And then if nobody grabs a quarterback, you'd get Allen. Because, you'd expect guys like Mahomes and Jackson to go before him. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But I did have a little bit of a fun fact so we're about halfway through the season, so I thought, hey, let's find out what the low of the low would be and the high of the high. So I won't go through everything. I don't have the players who would perform this way, but just for total points, if we were to have like the total from each position over the course of the season so far, our low score would be -3.15, and our high would be 341.9.
Dang.
Yep, I giggled at -3.15, which is why I wanted to put it on there.
That's that'd be a tough pill to swallow. There's no question about it. Oh man. All right, well, Josh, thanks for breaking down those highs and those lows. Week 7, we got another side bet coming up, another $5. Oh, so yeah, shout out to Mr. Landvik. I'm pretty sure we obviously mentioned it, but Landvik's going to get $5 coming his way. Another $5 coming someone's way will be for this side bet halftime. The team with the most total league points after 7 weeks, that'll be the most points for at the end of week 7. And I will responsibly pull up the standings right now to tell you who's in the lead, and then who's got a shot of maybe swiping them down. I don't think I'm up there, so I don't have to worry about any biases here. Most points for is Jeremy, actually. Jonathan Taylor Thomas with 816. Brian's only 6 points behind him, though, with 809. Henry going to give it to you at 805. So I think definitely any of those three guys could win it this week. And I think Derrick Henry's playing this week. I don't think Henry's on a bye. So I don't know if Jeremy or Brian have any bye week woes, but I think it's when you're within 11 points here, I think it's anyone's race. Obviously Jeremy has a little bit of an advantage, but the next drop off is to Nikita, and that's a 30-point difference. So it's a 3-man race here between Garrett, Brian, and Jeremy. And you want to take a stab in the dark on who's going to get it, Josh, just for funsies?
I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, Garrett's going to get it, because in his starting lineup compared to last week, he's only got one person on bye. Nikita has half a team on bye. Jeremy has quite a few guys on bye, and then Skybusters himself has a few guys on bye.
All right, well, it sounded like Garrett's going to be the favorite here just based on projections heading into Week 7, but still a 3-man race there, and we'll see how she goes. All right, Josh, you want to do a little prediction for a nail-biter or a blowout next week?
I think I'm going to say I'm going to win. Really? Yep, I'm playing against Nikita. She's sitting back there making dinner, so I'm going to get poisoned, but no. Well, I'm bye. So that's not pretty. And then, but with all these bye weeks, none of the rosters are updated, so it's hard to guess based on that. So
sure.
Actually, I'm going to go with Derek blowing out T, because I think that's hilarious. And then the close matchup is going to be the Jesse and Bradley, because they're always pulling each other down, so they're always pretty equal.
There you go. I love to hear it. My blowout, I just because I love to shit on Brian whenever I get the opportunity, I'm going to guess that Garrett blows out Brian just to add a little salt to the wound of Garrett getting that side bet $5. Brian doesn't talk about the side bets too often, but I just think it's funny when you kind of get posterized a bit or maddened or mossed or whatever you want to call it. So I think Garrett's going to do that to Brian this week. And then for Nailbiter, I'll go ahead and say that it's definitely not going to be me and Jeremy. I'm projected 52 points right now. I must have everyone on bye. I'll say the nail-biter will be Jamie and Hammer. Obi-Wan Mahomey versus Catch-22. Hammer is 0-6. Jamie is 2-4. It's not having the start she would want. Hammer's just... He might have given up by now. But I think it'll just... The dynamics of them having a nail-biter would be hilarious. So that's what I'm going to predict for my nail-biter this week. So the Hammer household has a bit of misery with them.
Yeah. It's always funny when a team that scores 57 in full PPR beats a team that scores 54 in full PPR. You're sitting there with 110 and you lose to somebody with 111.
I mean, I would get a kick out of it for sure. Oh boy. All right. Well, that was the Hidden Oaks original Hidden Oaks highlights. Obviously, inspired by other podcast segments that exist if you're going to be talking about your own fantasy league, but ours has the coolest name. So alliteration is the best. We'll move on here, Josh, to the medical minute. And I don't want the fans to be sad, but we don't have a medical minute this week. I haven't heard from Jamie, and I also didn't check in with Jamie at any point. So, I'm not going to point any blame around that Jamie let me down. I definitely could have followed up with her as well, and I just didn't think about it. There's no medical minute this week, unfortunately. You put down diarrhea, though. So
no, I was just going to say that I think that's Jamie's next topic, but I gave people some medical advice in the opening segment, chit chat with my medical minute on metal taste bad.
Metal taste is bad, Josh. I can't refute that. I guess, just to talk about medical stuff for just a second, I can say I got my flu shot yesterday. Have you been flu shotted yet, Josh?
I got a flu shot once. It didn't sit well, so don't think I'm going to get that again.
I feel confident that Jamie would say that's bad medical advice to give. So, do you want to put up your credentials against hers? What are you, host a spelling bee champ, right?
Well, I've gotten the flu shot once, and I have never gotten the flu.
You've never gotten the flu, Josh?
Never gotten the flu this year.
If you say so, man.
Hey, if I die, I die.
That's all right, Kirk Cousins. You is that the name you want to be attached to as your last statement on one of your last public statements on air, Josh? If I die, I die. You want to be right next to Kirk Cousins?
No, Golden Corral.
There you go. There you go. That's now you're aligning yourself with Jeff Foxworthy. I believe he's a heavy investor of Golden Corral. So you're a good old what are they? The Redneck Comedy Tour. There you go.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say Kelvin Benjamin, but
Sure, Eddie Lacy. It'll just be a big old reunion. Jimmy Kleinsass will be there probably. But yeah, no actual official medical minute this week from Dr. Jamie Hammer. I'm sure we will be back next week. Sometimes life just happens, and sometimes people drop balls in real life and in the NFL. So that's the way she goes sometimes. But Josh, we still got plenty of time for our Fave Favre here. We're just 40 minutes into the pod, so we got a couple fan submissions, and I don't think you or I took this one too seriously, so it'll probably be a bit briefer, but we'll have a couple chuckles along the way. We got a couple fan submissions from Brad, Al, and Brian, and I'll play them in such an order. The topic this week for the Fave Favre was news anchors or correspondents. You know, I put and in there, news anchors and correspondents, whatever. They could be real or fictional, though. And actually, I'll wait to talk about my list in a second here. So let's actually hop right in. Let's hear what Brad had to say about his Fave Favre news anchors and or correspondents. And hopefully he's loud enough for I'll have to crank it here. Let's see.
This is Bradley with my Fave Favre news correspondence. Number Favre, purred happily. A real straight shooter. Always like how he delivered the news to me. Number 3, the legendary one, Mark Rosen. Twin Cities icon, Hall of Famer, best seat in the house, and we're all better off for it, all that. Didn't really watch him a whole lot growing up, but I listened to him a lot, so I figure I just got to throw him in. Number 2, Stephen Colbert. Also another pretty straight shooter. Really liked his previous programming a lot, watched that a lot in my formative years. And my number 1 news correspondent, Carl Gerbschmidt. He is a real person.
I don't know if Bradley wanted to say more at the end there, or if he just doesn't know how to use the proper tone to end a sentence, but just Bradley kind of leaving that there with, he is a real person.
I was going to say he went like robotic on it.
Right. I mean, Carl Gerbschmidt is a real person, and Josh, if Carl Gerbschmidt didn't make your top 4, I mean, he was sports personality of the year. So I mean, let's not spoil your list. I'm just saying, I will be disappointed if he's not in your top 4. But anything surprising or noteworthy out of Brad there for you, Josh, when you were hearing that list?
Mark Rosen on that list. You know, usually you'd go with people that you take advice from or you listen to, but he hasn't listened to him before, so. A little interesting, but not unexpected.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Brad and I used to watch a lot of the Colbert Report, so I love seeing personally Colbert making Bradley's list. But we'll move on here. We got a Fave Favre news anchors or correspondent submission from Al, Audio Al. We'll see what Audio Al's Fave Favre was.
What up? This is Al coming at you with our Fave Heineke of news anchors. I'm watching this game right now. Bills are frauds. Prove me wrong. Change my mind. But anyway, number 4, we'll go with Tom Tucker, Family Guy. It's always a good laugh. Number 3, we'll go with Bruce Nolan. Biggest Sabres fan I know. I mean, I'm not super religious, but getting the news from God himself is pretty impressive. And plus, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Best sign off in sports. Number 2, we'll go with Chris Berman. Guy's just the king of nicknames and, you know, all the whoop. And number 1, we'll go with Stuart Scott. Fought a very tough battle with cancer and just childhood memories, you know. Catch you next time.
I enjoy that Al starts. There's a couple things I enjoy about Al. I love how he's picking different quarterbacks every week. Appreciate that. I love that he's always watching the Monday night game and he calls one of the team frauds. Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, a pretty good list of Al there, I think. Josh, what do you think? Anything pop out to you?
I mean, I like how he took it more serious. He definitely. At first, I didn't think he was going to put any thought into it, and then sure enough, he did.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm just like a few years too old to really appreciate Stewart the way it seems like other people in our friends group did. And you don't have to spoil your list if he made your list, but I mean, do you have any? Were you in your formative years of watching SportsCenter or whatever else? Were you a big Stewart guy or no?
I mean, yeah, I liked him. I thought he was a good reporter. He did not make my list, but I do think that he did a good job and definitely deserves to be on some lists.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and obviously having a very public battle with cancer, I think, is a big symbolism thing. Even if you didn't think he was the greatest sportscaster or newscaster or whatever, just being able to go out and still do the best you can and be an inspiration for others, I think, is a big deal, and that helped builds the legend. So shout out to Stewart for that. All right, we got one more fan submission here. Brian did such a good job last week. I had to let him go last. I don't know how good or poor he'll do this week. I don't know if he took it serious or if he did funny, because I do not listen to them in advance, really. I just listen to the first second to make sure the audio is okay. But let's hear Brian Knup's Fave Favre news anchors or news correspondents. Let's see what he's got.
Hi, this is Brian with my Fave Favre for the week. News anchors. Number 4, Chris Berman, circa 1990-ish, when he first started coming out with the nicknames. My all-time favorite, Bert Be Home Bly Levin. Number 3, Paul Majors, local guy, good-looking dude. Number 2, Walter Cronkite. You asked for it, you got it. Imagine being voted the most trusted man in America because of the way you read a teleprompter. Tells you how smart the American people are. And number 1, Ted Koppel. Those of you youngins out there don't remember how he really got his start on Nightline, but Nightline was a program that started out as nightly coverage of the Iran hostage situation and developed into a show that's still running today. That's my list.
Well, I am happy to see that Walter Cronkite makes that list. Big shout out to Brian. He's not someone I can truly appreciate just because he's not my generation, and I don't know that there's really anyone I trust on that sort of newsy scale these days. But yeah, Walter Cronkite was certainly the most trusted man in America at a certain point, which I don't think the bar for is very high anymore, but it's the way she goes. What about you, Josh? What do you think about Brian's list there?
Liked it. Brought me to tears.
Brought you to tears? What specifically brought you to tears?
That we had to listen to it, I guess. No, just that he listens, and he listened to you.
Big shout out to Brian. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing your favorite and not just some objective list, but what Brian thinks is the latest and greatest in his own heart. Well, Josh, that leaves just me and you left, pal. Big shout out to our 3 fans who brought in a submission this week. You can always do so at anchor.fm/hoodpod. But Josh, let's hear your process. What were you thinking this week as you were going through?
I just kind of wrote down the first Favre names that popped up on Google and went with that.
All right. Well, since it sounds like you put in so much effort, do you want the walk-off shot or no?
I think it's your turn, isn't it? I had the walk-off last week.
Yeah, I mean, if we're doing every other, sure. But also, yeah. I think we should go from topic to topic. All right. Well, you can go first, Josh. What do you got for honorable mentions, if you have any?
Yeah, so honorable mentions, I have Ron Burgundy, Champ Kind, Brick Tamland, the J. Jonah Jameson himself from Spider-Man, and of course, Alex Jones. All of them are very memeable, and so I think they all deserve to have an honorable mention.
All right. Well, what do you got for number 5, Josh?
For number 5, I have Carl Gerbschmidt. None other than Elk Mound legend himself, owner and operator of the Ice Bowl exhibit, and avid Packers fan, but one of the most honest football analysts out there, I believe. There's really no doubt in my mind he goes unbiased every single take of his. And so I just feel like he deserves a spot on everyone's Fave Favre.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that for sure. I think Gerby's very very objective. For me, just to talk a little bit about my process, I will say I went all fictional just because I thought that was funny, and I don't really watch the news. And some of the guys I would have picked would have been like John Oliver, who does like a comedy show, or I would have picked like Jon Stewart. Like I would say Jon Stewart would be my Walter Cronkite, but obviously they do it in a comedy way. They don't do it just in like a read a teleprompter serious way. So I didn't want to include real people like that, even though that's where I get my news from, no matter how depressing that might be to Brian. But yeah, Colbert didn't make my list. I didn't do Timsdale's news leader, Channel 7 News, Chet You Betcha from the Fairly Odd Parents. I did not do Bruce Nolan from Eyewitness News on WKBW, Buffalo's news leader from Bruce Almighty. Did not do Perd L. Hapley, famously known for all the shows he did in Pawnee. Burt McStuffins, I thought, had a great showing so far, but we've only got one report from, so I couldn't pick him. And I did not pick Tom Tucker or Trisha Takanawa from Quahog 5 News, Quahog's news leader. So all those people made my honorable mentions, but they could not make my Fave Favre. My number Favre in my Fave Favre news anchors or correspondents, I'm going to have to go with Carmel Bear. Carmel Bear has been our senior Colts correspondent for a big, 6 months or so now. And, it's a bit of recency bias, of course, but he's done some really in-depth work. I mean, putting himself in a ghillie suit outside Jim Irsay's house, being inside Jim Irsay's sex dungeon just to get us the scoop. There's no chance that Carmel Bear doesn't deserve a spot in my Fave Favre, and he is, of course, reporting for the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix, the Hidden Oaks Football News leader. Josh, who's your number tree?
Yeah, so my number tree, I've got Robin Chabatsky. She is the Wake Up New York reporter from How I Met Your Mother. It starts at, I think it's 2 a.m. And so it is a show that all the college kids in the show turn into a drinking game. Every time she says or but they have to take a drink. And so, yeah, any newscaster that can get a drinking game made after them, it's a good time.
Sweet. All right, that's a good number tree. My number tree is going to be none other than another member of the Quahog 5 News team, Quahog's news leader. That's going to be weatherman himself, Ollie Williams. And I'm just going to play a little snippet of some of the great things that Ollie brings us, because, I mean, this is why you pick someone in your Fave Favre, from gems like this.
And now here's Ollie Williams with the Blackie weather forecast. Ollie?
It's gonna rain!
Thanks, Ollie. In local news, we have more on the approach of Hurricane RuPaul, which is working his or her way up the coast. Let's go live to Ollie Williams with the Blackie weather report. Ollie?
It's raining sideways!
Sounds rough, Ollie. Do you have an umbrella?
Had one!
Where is it?
Inside out, 2 miles away!
Is there anything we can do for you?
Bring me some soup!
What kind?
Chunky!
All right, we'll get on that.
Obviously, Family Guy bit. Absolutely love it to pieces, but Ollie Williams definitely deserves my number 3 Fave Favre spot. Josh, who you got for number 2?
For number 2, I have got the realistic fish from SpongeBob. He brought us news that tied in with Wormy, and which was one of the better subplots in the SpongeBob show. But yeah, realistic fish is by far the number 2 on my list. Gar, what do you have?
Josh, I mean, it's hilarious you say that, because I am with my number 2 is also realistic fish. I mean, he works for Bikini Bottom News. He's part of the team that brings us they're the Bikini Bottom News leader, of course, is what I meant to say, because I'm rambling, so I'm trying to pull up YouTube. But I mean, I'll just play a couple seconds of his bits. I mean, listen to this.
Gary! Looks like another beautiful day here in Bikini Bottom.
Attention! Attention! This just in! A giant monster is attacking Bikini Bottom! We interrupt this program for an important news announcement. This wild throng behind me is screaming for Bikini Bottom's newest culinary sensation. Let's take a listen.
I mean, when you've got just absolute expert reporting like that, I don't understand how realistic fish could not make anyone's Fave Favre news anchor list. And, I haven't watched all the later SpongeBob seasons. They tried to replace him with that fucking 2-bit hack Perch Perkins, and I will not allow them to defame the legend that is realistic fish. So if you're listening out there, SpongeBob execs, get fucking Perch Perkins out of there and put realistic fish back in his head anchor seat, okay? God damn it. So I got a little, felt pretty strong there. Josh, go ahead with your number 1.
So my number 1, I've heard him before, Perd Hapley. He may be the only straight shooter when it comes to the news. And so I just, what's the word with Perd? Gotta be, that's definitely the best, because I'm sure the word with Perd is, hi, I'm Perd. And so I just love his bits coming in. I mean, I do have other honorable mentions now as we're going through it because Joan Calamenzo from Parks and Rec is also up there. The fact that she can maintain a career when she's drinking on set is pretty impressive. And then my 1B, actually, I'm going to go ahead and toss in April O'Neil. She's a reporter. She walks around with giant turtles that do kung fu. Yet I don't know if I've ever seen her write an article about giant turtles doing kung fu. And that, my friends, is impressive. She gives them pizza. They're really close friends, so you'd think she'd be able to get an exclusive, but I have yet to see a news article on them.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, maybe that if that article ever comes out, please feel free to put it in the Discord, Josh. My number one, Perd Havley, obviously a great number one pick. I can't disagree with that, even though he didn't make my list. I'm going to have to go with KVWN, Channel 4, San Diego's news leader, Ron Burgundy. I mean, to think Ron Burgundy wouldn't make my list with a little gem like this, I mean, come on.
From the entire Channel 4 news team, I'm Veronica Corningstone.
And I'm Ron Burgundy. Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
I mean, to have the balls to say that live on air, for you to read whatever the prompter says, that's a newsman I can trust. Ron Burgundy would probably be the most trusted man in my America. So, I mean, everyone knows Anchorman Ron Burgundy, absolute classic bit. I've quoted him more times than I could care to count. I just love Ron Burgundy so much. I don't feel like I need to explain it ad nauseum. Josh, how do you feel about everyone's faves part? Are you feeling good? That was a good news anchors and correspondents?
Yeah, I think so. I think I have some research to do, and I'll have some things to listen to. News is one of those things that you can listen to it like years later, and it's still relevant, right?
Oh, absolutely. Just like these podcasts we make.
Oh, absolutely.
But next week, Josh, the topic teaser for next week is going to be your Fave Favre places to hang out. And so I put in the stipulation, for all us Hidden Oaks people, and obviously we're not all Hidden Oaks people, but no Hidden Oaks places. Like, I don't want to hear Brad or Brian saying Donnie's house. Yeah, we fucking get it. We've all hung out in the hood a lot. So no Hidden Oaks places, and no your parents' house for, all of us don't live with our parents anymore. So no Hidden Oaks places, no parents' houses. But other than that, you could do your parents' cabin or whatever else. We're going to do your Fave Favre places to hang out, and I'm really interested to see what some people can come up with for that. Don't forget, for every time you call in, you can get a little entry into our raffle. We're giving away a swag basket, and we can talk about that more next week since we're running out of time here a little bit. No need to go in depth, but just keep leaving us voicemails, man. Doesn't even have to be for the Fave Favre. It could be a voicemail questioner, a voicemail, I don't know, just a comment. Don't even need to be a question or whatever, but yeah, we would love to hear from you. Josh, you got any final words for the folks out there?
Go Packers.
Do you think, obviously people can engage the show, join our Discord, anchor.fm/hoodpod, hiddenokesoverdose@gmail.com, all that stuff. But Josh, for you, you've been predicting this kid's on your way. Do you think you're going to be a dad by this time next week? By, what is that, October 26th?
Probably.
Do you feel good about that?
Probably.
You probably feel good about it?
Yeah.
You want to give your future here, past Josh, give your future self some advice. What's some advice you want to give to you from pre-kid Josh to post-kid Josh?
Don't yell louder than the baby's crying.
Just to try and shut them up, just out yell them and scare them into submission, huh?
Mocking a child is unfair. Let them learn to speak first.
There you go. Bingo. All right, Josh. Well, I'd been watching Burn Notice a lot, and just my final words is I've been, it's not a big secret, but we've been running a bit of a covert operation ourselves, some of us greasy fucks. And I believe at this point, I can't obviously see it in your house because I can't see inside your house, but there should be a large cardboard box positioned somewhere behind you that your lovely wife has brought upstairs, and if not, you can go get it yourself. It was in the trunk of your car. An expert hiding spot, I must say. But some greasy fucks put together a little daddy package for you, and we're not going to have you open on air. That's weird, so I just want to let you know as we sign off here. Got a little gift for you in your future daddom. Some things are for you, some things are for the kid. Obviously, it's going to be an infant child that can't play with toys just yet, but congrats on being a dad. I think you're going to be a great dad, and from all us greasy fucks to you, just want to say love you, bud, and just be the dad you always wanted. I think it's that simple. I don't think you need to overcomplicate it.
Thank you, Gar.
mean,
I
it's not just
definitely
me,
was
it's-
surprised when I spun around. The fact that you made my pregnant wife carry that box, though, I'm going to get you.
She volunteered for it. But yeah, no, love you, bud. Enjoy the box. I'm sure you'll be
Thank you.
snapping about it or posting or whatever. But, we don't do it for the credit. We do it because we love you. So have a good night, Josh, and have a good night, Walters, and whoever else is listening later. We'll see
Bye,
you, folks.
Craig.
Bye, Craig.
Thanks, Gar. Thanks, Greasies. Bye.